This is Dave Bisbee coming to you from the beautiful Seven Canyons. Today we're going to talk about all of those shots that you run into right after you tee off. Probably the only level spots on the entire golf course are the tee boxes. Once you get out onto the fairways, you start dealing with all of these different slopes. That's what we're going to talk about here. And we're going to talk about 4 different lies. We're going to talk about a ball on a downhill lie, a ball below your feet, a ball on an uphill lie, and a ball above your feet, and what you need to change to accommodate each of those slopes. So this first one we're going to talk about is the downhill slope. What I mean there is that slope is running away from you. This is the one that probably gives people the most trouble because you really have to fight your instincts. Your instinct when you set up to a shot like this is to kind of stand into the hill to get your balance. Well, we need you to do the opposite. What I want you to do is match the slope with your shoulders. So when you do that, you'll find that your weight really goes on that downhill foot. Matching the shoulders to the slope allows that club to swing up and down that slope so you can get under that ball. It would look something like this. Now, the other thing to take into consideration with this shot is because this ground is running away from you and the force of the stroke is going to be down that hill, you need to take a club that has enough loft to offset that slope. In other words, we need to get this ball up in the air, and everything we're doing in the setup and the swing is forcing it lower. That also means that when you're hitting it into a green or something like that, you have to take into consideration this ball's going to run a lot further than one that would be flying higher in the air. So again, shoulders match the slope, weight on the downhill foot, you swing the club up, chase it down that slope, and you'll get out of this trouble shot. Now we're going to talk about another lie that's a tough one to get off of. This is where the ball is below your feet. Again, our instinct is to flex the knees and to get down to where that ball is when it's sitting below your feet. And it's the opposite of what we need you to do. Because that ball is below your feet, we need to create a little more angle to get that club down there. So I'm going to have you stand a little closer to the ball, create more tilt, forward tilt with your posture, and that is forward tilt with the upper body from the hips. And then we have to really hold that posture so we find the bottom of the ball. It would look something like this. Now with this ball below your feet, the shot also tends to come out and curve off to the right. So we need to make sure that we adjust our aim accordingly. In other words, aim a little left of where you want to go to make room for that slice that's going to happen from this shot. It's really important to stay in that posture, maybe make a couple of practice swings to make sure you can find the bottom, and that'll get you out of that spot. Now this next lie we're going to talk about is the opposite of where that ball was below our feet. This is where we find ourselves with the ball above the feet on the slope. Now, a couple of things to take into consideration here. The ball is essentially closer to us, so we're going to have to make an adjustment with the setup to accommodate that slope. And what we're going to do, instead of getting our normal posture, we're going to have to stand up just a little bit more. In other words, we're going to be a little more erect with the upper body to make room for that club to swing around that hill. So it really kind of shallows out the bottom of it. So we're going to set our posture a little more upright. We're going to let that club swing a little bit more around us. It would look something like this. Now, the other thing about that shot is it tends to come out and hook. You may have been able to see that ball take off and start to curve to the left. So what we have to do is we have to make sure that we aim a little bit more off to the right to make room for that curve that's going to happen. Adjust your posture. Let that swing go a little more around you to accommodate that slope. Aim a little to the right. That'll take care of this lie. So for the last part of this series, we're going to talk about the uphill lie, where the ground is sloping up away from you. Our instinct will be to put our weight into that hill. In other words, to stand right against that hill for balance. But I need you to do the opposite of that. If we're going to pull this shot off successfully, we need to match our shoulders to that slope. And when we do that, that puts my weight kind of on that downhill foot. But that puts the club in a position to swing up the slope on the way through versus into the slope on the way through. So the swing would look something like this. So you notice there my weight really kind of stayed on that downhill foot. I try to turn through this shot, but I don't try to shift my weight into the hill. Another consideration with this shot is because we're standing on that slope and we're matching the shoulders to that, you're adding loft to whatever club it is that you're hitting. So you need to select a club with loft that will offset that slope. In other words, the ball's going to go higher and shorter off of this lie. So we need to take loft off of the club to get the distance that we need. But with just a little bit of practice, I think you'll find all of these different sloping lies. You're going to be able to hit them well, get yourself out of trouble, and get back into play. Thanks for tuning in.